Choosing Home by ginnyrules27. Chapter 13. When Mal and the gang finally got to Fairy Cottage from Moradon Prep, it was almost dusk. Apparently teleporting on an empty stomach wasn't the best thing for mortals. Plus Lonnie had gotten queasy as well, and Jay spent about half an hour arguing as to why they should have been able to stop. "Alright, so before we go in, just go over everything," Mal said as she stood in front of Fairy Cottage. "Someone has to stick to Ben like glue. I don't care if it's me, one of Ben's shadows, Estelle, whoever."
"Whoa, Mal, no!" Ben exclaimed. "Guys, one of you stick to Mal. You guys weren't there to hear Freddy's comments."
Mal shook her head. "Ben, of the two of us, which one's got magic, a Cerberus, and two cousins who also have magic, and which one of us is the king of Moradon?"
"Mal, who's the one Freddy seems fixated on? And who's the one who's already punched Freddy and will do it again if he comes anywhere near you? I'm handling Freddy,"
Ben promised. Wait. Lonnie spoke up. "Ben punched Freddy."
"Go, Ben,"
Amir said with a grin. Ben sighed and rubbed his knuckles.
"He was spewing garbage about Mal. You guys would have done it too if he was talking about Emma or Elle. But the point is, I will handle Freddy. I'd like someone to keep Mal far away from him as possible. Understood?"
Aye,
Mr. King Captain Ben, sir,"
Amir and Akio said, faking a salute to Ben. Magaria tilted her head. "I've known them for what feels like forever, and yet I will never understand them."
"Imagine how I feel,"
Ben chuckled as he looked over at Makaria. "You have my pity, Your Highness." Mal couldn't help but sigh. "Ben."
"I'm not arguing with you on this one, Mal," Ben said, shaking his head. "If you're saying I need protection, fine. But so do you. Freddy didn't crash Cotillion with an intent to kill me, remember?"
Mal pinched her bridge of her nose to try to stave off a headache. "If you're insisting on this, you're taking Estelle."
"Fine," Ben sighed. "But only because I know if I don't agree, you'll follow me into danger zone anyway. This may seem irrelevant and completely off topic, but has anyone heard about Chad?" Amir asked. "We know where he is. Freddy has him hostage," Harry said, looking at the second son of Agrabah like he had 3 heads.
Akio shook his head. "No, that's not what he meant. Chad's normally all over social media, all the time. Selfies, tweets. But his socials have been dead since the time of Jane's party. Something's not sitting right." Carlos blinked in surprise. "You really think Audrey would let Chad update his social media pages?"
"That wouldn't be a good look for someone who..." "I just realised that Freddy would have no idea what social media pages are," Uma spoke up. "If Charming Jr. has a brain, he might have been able to convince Sleeping Brat to let him post an update."
"So we're talking about a potentially wounded Chad, and Audrey armed with Maleficent's scepter, and Freddy," Makaria listed. "Great." Mal chuckled. "Well, we're here at Fairy Cottage, at least. Makaria, can you put up a ward to keep Audrey from poofing Freddy out?" "Sure can." Makaria nodded and got to work. Soon the faint glow of an anti-teleportation ward shimmered around the cottage, and Uma smirked. "Good luck poofing out of that one," she muttered. "Okay," Mal sighed. "This is a very tiny cottage if my memory of the dragon's rants are accurate, so I don't think we'll all fit. Ben, you take Jay, Lonnie and Estelle to search upstairs. And I'm only okay with this because you're insisting on handling Freddy. Akio, Amir, Carlos, Uma, Harry and I will handle the downstairs. Makaria, you and Gil monitor the outside. There may be a back door in case they try to make a run for it." "Got it." Makaria nodded.
"Gil, you got your sword, right?" Uma asked as they prepared to enter the cottage. "I know Carlos has his little dog friend, but he doesn't look like he'd be much help in a fight."
Gil nodded, patting the side of his belt.
"Never leave home without it, Uma. You and Mal all taught the crew that."
"I can feel the judgment, and dude, stay with Gil," Carlos muttered. He had in fact left his sword in his room. He had been running late for Jane's party, and it was either forget his sword or forget Jane's cake. Dude whined slightly but nodded, trotting over to Gil's side. Mal sighed. "Never mind that. Let's go. The longer we wait, the more time they have to potentially escape. And we can't put anti-teleportation ward around the whole forest.
Yes, Mal.
Quietly, those who were going into the cottage crept in, though Mal made sure Ben was the last one in the cottage. Only a fool would let the king go into an enemy base without making sure it was completely safe. And Mal was many things, but she wasn't a fool.
It's empty.
Uma frowned as they got inside, and she looked around the downstairs. Lonnie sighed as she looked around as well, nodding her head to the side as if to gesture to Ben and Jay that they needed to check upstairs. Estelle quickly followed them as they arrived to a closed door. Ben sighed as he looked over at Jay and Lonnie.
You guys ready?
Ben mouthed with his hand on the doorknob, ready to open it if he needed to. At their nods, Ben opened the door and they rushed in to an empty room. Huh, kind of a letdown, Lonnie remarked, as Estelle nudged past them and began sniffing around every corner of the room, a low growl emitting from the Cerberus all the while.
Ben sighed. Well, we know Freddy's been here at least. How do you know that?
Jay asked, looking over at him.
That's the same way Estelle reacted when he caught Freddy scent in my dorm. Ben told him, before Cotillion when Freddy stole my suit.
Jay frowned as Estelle hopped onto the bed, sniffing and growling and more determined, and his growl was getting louder. Hey, guys, is it just me or do those covers look a little messed up? Lonnie asked, looking a little disturbed. Almost as if that bed had been used recently. Jay and Ben looked at each other, neither one of them needing an explanation as to Lonnie's meaning.
Nope! No way! I don't need that image in my head!
Jay exclaimed, grabbing Lonnie's hand and marching back down to where the others were located.
Mal, does brain bleach exist? And if it doesn't, can you make it exist?
Mal tilted her head as Ben quickly followed them, along with Estelle, following Lonnie and Jay down the stairs.
Please don't tell me those two weren't in...
Uma asked, looking rather disturbed at the idea. No, Lonnie shook her head. There wasn't anyone in the room when we got there, and unless the scepter can make people invisible, it's safe to say Audrey and Freddy are long gone. Mal sighed, but then frowned. So then, why do you need brain bleach?
The bed in Aurora's old bedroom,
Ben said, his voice soft, as he couldn't believe it was a possibility.
The covers were messed up. I'm hoping that just means one of them took a nap in it before... But the only nap Freddy would have taken would be one where... Jay, don't share that image, Uma barked. I'm sorry, but if I have to be miserable by picturing it, you're all sharing my misery and picturing it too, Jay exclaimed.
Mal shook her head. There was a memory wipe spell in the spellbook, but since Audrey stole that, I can't recite it, she told Jay. If we get it back and you still want it done, let me know and I'll do it. Just this once, though.
Thanks, Mal,
Jay said with a small smile. Ben sighed as he sat down on one of the chairs at the kitchen table, gently rubbing his eyes.
Gods, I am never going to get that image out of my brain, and I didn't even see it happen,
he muttered. You're not alone, then. Akio shook his head. Dear gods, why?
Who knows, Amir shrugged. But what do we do now? We thought we knew their base of operations, but there's no way they're going to come back here now. Not after we found it and can basically just stay here waiting for them.
Mal sighed. I guess we regroup then. Get Gil and Macaria and go back to Evie's. She's a cheerleader after all. She might have a better insight to Audrey's mind than any of us, with the exception of Ben. Ben shrugged.
I thought I knew what Audrey thought,
he said, his voice soft.
I mean, she was only one of my oldest friends.
Even though hope was one of his christening gifts, Ben could feel his cracking every second they were in the cottage. He could almost see their toddler selves running around the cottage, Audrey tugging at her father's sleeve to go and feed the birds that were bathing in the nearby bird bath, or pet the frolicking bunnies. Meanwhile, he would always have a book on hand, and find a corner to curl up in and read,
Or, if Chad had joined them for some reason, go and find a mud puddle to jump in. Sometimes they'd play heroes and villains. A rather messed up game now that I thought about it. Is Estelle okay? Carlos asked, pulling Ben out of the past and back into the present.
He should be, Mal asked. Why?
Because he seems rather intent in sniffing that closet door, the younger boy responded, pointing to the closet in question. Sure enough, Estelle seemed to be pawing at the locked door, whining slightly every so often. It was as if he was determined to get in there. What's going on, boy? Ben asked as he got up to take the board off the door. Ben, let one of us do that, Akio said, putting a hand on Ben's shoulder. You're still the king, even if we're in an empty cottage and knowing Audrey the way we do. Would you really put it past her to leave a trap? But I don't want you guys getting hurt, Ben said, looking over at them. Neither do we, but it's better one of us than you, Lonnie said as she went over to take the board off, Jay rushing forward to take it from her so she could open the door. Everyone tensed as the closet door opened, ready to potentially fight whatever was in there. Chad? Ben asked in shock, seeing his friend huddled into a small ball. Ben got up to go and talk to him, but to his surprise, Carlos held him back. Ben, don't, the smaller boy said, shaking his head. He might not want anyone near him right now. Or at least he's not going to want to feel crowded, if he's going through what I think he's going through. After all, it takes a claustrophobic person to recognize a claustrophobic episode. That closet in Hell Hall wasn't exactly the biggest, Carlos thought, as he slowly and deliberately approached Chad, kneeling down so that he wasn't towering over the charming Tenaire. The idea that he would tower over anyone was laughable, but it was still something worth considering. Chad? Carlos asked gently. Chad, it's okay. The closet's open. We got you. I want my mummy, the blonde muttered, almost tightening the grip he had around his legs. Ben sighed and went to kneel next to Chad. I know, he said. I've known since I was 7. And you never told anyone? Carlos asked. Ben looked at Carlos in shock. It wasn't my business to say. Besides, Chad had learned one of my biggest fears, so he told me his. That way, we both had something on the other, in case one of us spilled the beans, so to speak. He shook his head and brought his attention back to Chad. Hey, buddy. It's okay. Ben and Carlos slowly and carefully brought Chad to his feet, Ben making sure to keep a hand on Chad's back to keep him from potentially toppling over. Depending on how long he had been huddled into that ball, it was likely that his legs would be rather stiff. Ben? Chad asked upon realizing he was both standing and that his friend was there. I'm here, Chad. I got you, Ben said as Estelle trotted over to gently lick Chad's hand. The three of them led Chad out of the closet and sat him down in the chair that Ben had vacated. She's gone. They're gone. Ben's heart honestly broke upon hearing how small Chad's voice was as he frantically looked around, as if expecting Audrey or Freddie to burst from the shadows and shove him back into the closet. That's right. Amir nodded, keeping his voice gentle as he followed Ben's example. Amir might not have known exactly what was going on, but he could see Chad was rattled, for lack of a better term. Do you have any idea where they might have gone, Chad? Mal asked, keeping her voice just as gentle as the boys were keeping theirs. It was the last thing she wanted to ask, especially with how Chad was acting, but they needed to know. They needed to get a lead as to where Audrey and Freddie might strike next, before someone else got hurt. Chad shook his head. If they did, I didn't hear it, he said, and the walls here are so thin, I could hear everything. Okay, definitely looking up that memory erase spell, if I ever get the spellbook back, Mal thought with a frown. Sure, Chad might not have been her favourite person, But no one deserved to have that living in their head.
Before anyone could say anything, Chad's head sprung up. Mal almost wanted to make a comparison of a meerkat poking his head up to see if it was safe.
You okay, buddy?
Akio asked, looking at the others in concern.
Alex! He exclaimed. Freddie! He wanted too! She's okay?
Carlos nodded. Jane made sure she got home safely. Kitty and Lucy were okay too. We spritzed them with enchanted lake water so they weren't under the sleeping spell for too long. Before Carlos could say anything more, Chad had sprung up from the chair and ran out of the cottage as if his heart desire was calling to him. Everyone stared after him, each one of them in varying levels of shock.
Well, that just happened,
Harry said, being the first to break the silence.
I think I need to take back my titling charming the worst brother I'd ever seen. If there's one thing I know about Chad, it's that he loves his sisters,
Ben said, making a mental note to call Queen Ella, or King Kit after everything had settled down, and make sure Chad got to the castle safely. Was that Chad Charming that just sprinted past us? Macaria asked as she and Gil walked in. I almost tackled him before I saw the pale blue jacket. From what I've heard of you guys say about Freddie, he doesn't seem the type to wear pale blue, not even as a disguise. That's a good point. After all, the suit he stole from Ben's was a dark grey, Mal said.
What do we do now? Carlos asked.
Mal and Uma looked at each other before Mal sighed. Go back to Evie's, regroup, plan our next move, she said. It's all we can do. Everyone nodded before shuffling out of the cottage, Ben and Mal being the last to leave. Mal gently took Ben's hand and gave him a gentle smile. Ben tried to hide the worried look on his face with a smile, but Mal shook her head. You don't have to put on a mask, she told him. Not around me, and not around your friends. You've been through so much today, Ben. Wait, has it really only been a day? It feels like it's been dragging on for weeks, she thought. Ben shook his head.
You don't need me falling apart,
he muttered as he made his way to the cottage. Mal staring after him. Ben, you spent about half of our relationship telling me emotions were okay. Why won't you let yourself feel the same? Mal thought with a sigh, as she followed him, closing the door of the empty cottage. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh my god. Wow. I hope I got the emotions right, guys. My throat's been a little bit iffy. I think I might be having a cold. Someone in my family's got one right now, so it wouldn't surprise me. But Chad. Oh my god. Again, give the poor boy a cuddle. And at least they got him out and he knows that Alex and his sisters are safe. That's something. And I like that as soon as Jay realised what Audrey and Freddie were doing, he grabbed Lonnie and got out of there. Yes, dude, protect your girlfriend. One detail I like is that Carlos chose Jane's cake instead of his sword. Again, prioritising the girlfriend. Forgive me if my romantic heart likes that, and I'm just trying to find some levity here. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.